Father, we bless you. Teach us your word in the name of Jesus. This is the ministry of Moses, part 16. We're going to take our text from Numbers 11, chapter verse 10 to 15. Let us consider verse 10 to 15. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all these people upon me? Have I conceived all these people? Have I begotten them? That thou shouldest say unto me, Carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest, to their fathers. Hence should I have flesh to give unto all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us flesh, that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of thy hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. In verse 10, the Bible revealed how the Israelites wept. This weeping was so great that every man stood at their tent door to weep bitterly. This, you know, the significance of this weeping is that they have been, they have been failed by their leaders. By weeping, the message they are sending to Moses was that he was not good enough to lead. Through their weeping, they are indirectly telling Moses that he has failed as a leader. And the message of this weeping, the message this weeping was sending to God was that he has deliberately chosen, Moses to be their leader in order to punish them. Through this weeping, they were blaming both God and Moses. This was why God's anger was kindled against them when he saw them, when he saw their great act of unbelief. This also revealed that Moses, the Bible also revealed that Moses was displeased. No true leader will be happy seeing his people weeping. Through the action of the Israelites, Moses felt guilty. He felt like he was responsible for what is currently happening to them. It was in this displeased and sad mood that Moses went to God and began to pour out his heart before the Lord. One thing to learn about the ministry of Moses was that he was a kind of leader that does not have any alternative to God. No matter how worse things grow beside Moses, he has one place and one person to run to. The place is the place of prayer, and the personality is God. In verse 11, Moses told God how heavy the burden of leading the people was on him. Moses was to them a blessing, but they chose to be to Moses a burden due to their unbelief. So Moses was to them a blessing, but the people chose to be to Moses a burden because of their unbelief. Followers who have refused to grow spiritually will end up becoming a burden to their leaders. Moses was a blessing to the Israelites, but the Israelites were a burden to him because their unbelief and spiritual blindness was great. What makes a burden is, what makes a burden is unbelief, and what makes a blessing is faith. In other words, please take note, what makes a burden is unbelief, and what makes a blessing is faith. Now, in other words, if you choose to be faithless, you may end up as a burden. But if you choose to have faith in God, you are preparing yourself to become a blessing to whoever comes around you. It is a good thing to be a blessing and not a burden. Verse 12 to 14. You can see that in verse 12 to 14. Now, Moses was still confessing how tired he was leading millions of people who are in unbelief. Moses told God that the burden of the people is too heavy for him to bear. Moses was great and honorable before all men, but he knows how to humble himself before the Lord. No acting. He spoke out his mind and revealed his weakness before the Lord. Some people come before the Lord and they are still not humble and submissive. They have a superstar mentality. They just have this superstar mentality. So they approach God with arrogance and ignorance. They talk as though they are without weakness, even when they are full of it. We must understand that there's a difference between man to man relationship and God to man relationship. In a man to man relationship, you may choose to hide your weakness and still be right because every man has a limitation. But in a God to man relationship, trying to hide your weakness is called foolishness. How can you try to hide something from a personality that knows the beginning from the end? Hiding things from men can be a sign of wisdom, but not with God. When you hide things from men, that can be a sign of wisdom, but hiding things from God, trying to hide things from God, is called foolishness. We must all learn from the openness of Moses before the Lord. Openness before the Lord is a great asset. In verse 15, Moses told God to kill him since he preferred to die than to live to see his people suffering without him being able to bring a solution. To Moses, God was his only source, and this always reflects in how he relates with God. If God is your only hope and source, then it will definitely be revealed in how well you can trust him. Many people find it hard to trust God completely because they have plenty alternatives. If God is your only hope, then that will affect, if God is your only hope, then that will effect in you a strong faith and trust in Him. This is because you know that if God, this is because at that point where you know that God is your only hope, you know within you that if not God, then nobody else. Many of us cannot trust God completely today because we claim to be looking at God, but our eyes are focused on men. Never claim to be looking at God when all your attention is on people. You can't serve two masters. If it is man, then it cannot be God. And if it is God, then it cannot be man. If it is man, then it cannot be God. And if it is God, then it cannot be man. That's the key. Spiritually speaking, greatness is not measured by how much money you have, but how broken you are before God. To God, brokenness is greatness and not popularity. So it will mean that there are many people you know, who are great before the Lord that even the world are yet to see. You know, and there are many people who are great before the Lord that our world is yet to see and know because they are not popular. So if you want to be great before God, then learn how to come to His presence with brokenness. Brokenness here means come to Him admitting that you need His help, not coming to God with one hand in your pocket and trying to act like you don't really need His help as such, but you just want to partner with Him. Brokenness brings you to the lowest state before the Lord. It brings you to a low estate before the Lord, a point where you open up your weakness before Him and call on Him for help. If you are broken, then you have given the potter an opportunity to work on you because until you are broken, God will never mold you. To enjoy the potter's dimension of God, you must learn the ways of brokenness. This is the wisdom of God. Don't sell it.